The morning sun was just waking up when Jack Miller started his old Harley and drove down the empty country road. The wind was cool, brushing against his weathered face. His black leather jacket, faded and scratched from years of use, fluttered behind him like a flag of old memories. Jack wasn't going anywhere special, at least not to most people. But for him it was sacred ground. Every Sunday morning, he rode to the small cemetery where his wife Emily rested. It had been 3 years since Emily passed away. She was the kind of woman who could light up a room just by smiling. She had been his reason to stay clean, to stay gentle, to believe in something good again. When she died, something in Jack went quiet. He didn't talk much anymore except to the sound of his engine. That Harley had been his oldest friend and now his only one. The cemetery sat at the edge of town, surrounded by tall oak trees. Jack parked the bike by the old wooden fence and turned off the engine. The silence that followed was deep and heavy. Only the sound of birds filled the air. He took off his helmet, revealing gray hair and tired eyes that had seen both trouble and tenderness. In his hand he held a single white rose, the kind Emily loved. Jack walked slowly between the rows of graves, the crunch of dry leaves under his boots. The morning light cut through the mist, painting the stones in soft gold. When he reached Emily's grave, he stopped, staring at her name carved into the marble. Emily Grace Miller, it said. Below it a simple line, loved by all, missed by one. Jack had chosen that line himself. He knelt down, brushed off the leaves, and placed the rose gently on the grave. "Hey, Em," he whispered. "It's Sunday again." His voice cracked just a little. He didn't say much after that. He never did. He just sat there looking at the stone, lost in thought. Sometimes he imagined her standing beside him, smiling that soft smile she used to give him when he came home late from work. But today felt different. Something in the air caught his attention. There were small footprints in the soft dirt around the grave. They were fresh, smaller than an adult's, maybe a child's. Jack frowned, scanning the area. The cemetery was usually empty at this hour. Then he heard a faint sound, a sniffle, followed by a soft whine. He turned his head and saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, was kneeling a few feet away, her small hands pressed together as if in prayer. Beside her sat a golden-brown dog, calm and quiet, watching her closely. The girl's hair was messy, and she wore a simple blue dress with mud stains near the hem. Jack didn't know what to say. It wasn't every day you found a child visiting graves alone. He stood there for a moment, unsure whether to speak. Finally, he cleared his throat and said gently, "Hey there, kiddo. You okay?" The girl looked up suddenly, startled. Her eyes were red and her face looked pale. For a second, she didn't say anything. Then, in a small voice, she whispered, "I just wanted to see her one more time." Jack blinked. "See who?" he asked softly. She looked back at the grave. "Miss Emily," she said. "She was my teacher." Those words hit Jack like a wave. His chest tightened. Emily had worked as a volunteer teacher at the local school before she got sick. She used to tell Jack about her students, how she tried to help the shy ones, how she gave extra snacks to the hungry ones. She never mentioned names, but she always said, "They're my kids too." Jack stepped closer, his voice low. "You knew my wife?" The girl nodded slowly. "She was the nicest person I ever met," she said. "She always helped me with my reading. And she used to give treats to my dog, Max." She pointed to the dog beside her. Max wagged his tail as if he remembered too. Jack smiled faintly, though his eyes were damp. "Yeah," he murmured. "That sounds like her." He looked at the little girl again. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she said, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "Lily Harper," Jack nodded. "Well, Lily, it's nice to meet you. You came all the way here by yourself?" She nodded again. "Me and Max. Grandma doesn't like coming to the cemetery. She says it's too sad." Lily looked down at the grave. "But I just wanted to say goodbye. We're moving away soon." Jack felt something stir deep inside him. He knew that feeling, the kind that makes you want one last look, one last moment before something changes forever. He slowly knelt beside her. "You know," he said quietly, "Emily used to say goodbye is never really the end. She believed people stay with us in little ways." Lily looked up at him, curious. "Like how?" He thought for a moment, then smiled. "Like when someone shows you kindness. Or when a song makes you feel warm inside. That's them saying hello again." The girl smiled a little for the first time. She used to say things like that too. Jack chuckled softly. "Yeah, She said a lot of things that made sense later. He looked at the grave again and sighed. You miss her, huh? Lily nodded. She used to call me her brave girl. She said I had a big heart. She paused, her voice trembling. When I heard she went to heaven, I didn't believe it. I thought maybe she just went away for a while. But now, she trailed off, staring at the flowers on the grave. Jack's eyes softened. He wanted to comfort her, but words felt small, so he just reached out and gently patted her shoulder. She'd be real proud of you, you know. Coming all the way here. That takes courage, Lily sniffled. You think so? I know so, Jack said firmly. For a while, they just sat there in silence. The dog lay down between them, resting its head on its paws. The wind rustled the trees above, scattering a few yellow leaves around them. Jack watched as one landed gently on Emily's name. He brushed it off carefully. After a moment, he stood up. Tell you what, he said. How about we clean up her grave together? She liked things neat. Lily's face brightened a little. Okay, she said quickly. She stood and started picking up small branches and leaves, humming softly to herself. Max followed her every step, wagging his tail. Jack helped, pulling weeds from the edge of the stone. When they were done, the grave looked clean and peaceful again. Jack looked at it and nodded. That's better. She'd like that. Lily smiled shyly. She always said the same thing after we cleaned the classroom. Jack chuckled again. Yeah, that sounds like her too. He studied the little girl for a moment. She reminded him of Emily in a strange way. The same gentle energy, the same care in small things. When the church bell in the distance struck 10, Lily looked up and said, I should go now. Grandma will worry. Jack nodded. You want me to walk you out? She looked unsure. You don't have to. I want to, Jack said kindly. Come on. I'll make sure you and Max get back safe. They walked together down the gravel path, the dog trotting beside them. When they reached the gate, Lily turned back one last time. Bye, Miss Emily, she whispered. Thank you for everything. Jack watched her, his chest tightening again. When she turned to him, he smiled softly. You know, Lily, he said. You made her day today. Wherever she is, I'm sure she's smiling right now. The girl smiled back and nodded. I hope so. Jack started his Harley and the deep rumble filled the quiet morning. He watched Lily and her dog disappear down the road. For the first time in a long while, he felt something warm inside, something that had been missing since Emily left. He looked at the grave once more through the rearview mirror and whispered, Looks like you're still changing lives, Em. Then he put on his helmet, kicked the bike into gear and rode off slowly, carrying a little peace in his heart that hadn't been there before. The next Sunday morning arrived and the road stretched long and quiet under the golden light. Jack Miller rode his Harley through the soft wind, thinking about the little girl he had met the week before. Her name, Lily Harper, kept echoing in his mind, along with her tiny voice saying, I just wanted to see her one more time. Those words had touched something deep inside him, something he hadn't felt for a long time. All week, he had tried to push the memory aside, but he couldn't. He kept wondering if she was doing okay. Was she safe? Was her grandmother kind to her? Did she make it home all right? Emily had always told him that when someone touches your heart, even for a short moment, it's for a reason. Jack believed that. As his bike rolled over the last hill, the cemetery came into view. The morning fog was still hanging low, curling between the gravestones like white smoke. He parked near the same old tree, switched off the engine, and listened to the silence. He walked slowly toward Emily's grave, holding a small bunch of wildflowers he'd picked along the road. It was his quiet routine, flowers, a few words, and silence. But today, before he could even reach the spot, he saw something that stopped him in his tracks. The little girl was back. Lily was sitting on the grass near Emily's grave, her small hands arranging tiny pebbles in the shape of a heart. Her loyal dog Max lay beside her, his head resting on his paws. She didn't notice Jack at first. She was humming softly, lost in her own little world. Jack stood there for a few seconds, just watching her. There was something peaceful about it. This child sitting quietly in the morning light, doing something so simple yet full of love. He finally cleared his throat and said with a smile, You beat me here again. Lily looked up quickly and her face brightened when she saw him. Hi, Mr. Jack, she said, standing up and brushing off her dress. He grinned. So you remember my name, huh? Of course, she said proudly. You told me last time when you walked me home. Jack chuckled. Guess I did. He looked at the heart made of pebbles and nodded. That's nice. She would have liked that. Lily smiled shyly. I wanted to make it look pretty for her. Jack knelt beside her and helped adjust one of the stones that had rolled away. You've got an eye for detail, he said. Emily was the same way. She used to rearrange flowers at home even when they already looked perfect. Lily giggled. Miss Emily used to say, pretty things make the heart softer. Jack's smile faded into something gentler. Yeah, she used to say that to me too. They sat quietly for a few minutes. The dog rolled over on his back, enjoying the sunshine. The peace of that place felt lighter now, less heavy than before. Finally, Jack asked, Does your grandma know you're here again? Lily nodded. This time she let me come. I told her you'd be here. She said she's glad I'm not alone. That's good, Jack said. She sounds like a smart lady. She's nice, Lily replied softly. But she gets tired a lot. So me and Max keep her company. Jack nodded. He could picture it easily. The small house, the old woman sitting by the window, the little girl and her dog beside her. Life wasn't easy for them, he could tell. After a moment, Lily looked up at him with curious eyes. Mr. Jack, can I ask something? Sure, kiddo. What's on your mind? She hesitated. What was Miss Emily like? When she wasn't at school? Jack's chest tightened. He wasn't sure he could put Emily into words. He looked at the grave and took a deep breath. Well, he began, she was sunshine in human form. She laughed at everything, even my bad jokes. She loved baking, but she always forgot to set the timer so the house smelled like burnt cookies half the time. Lily laughed, her eyes sparkling. She burned cookies? Oh yeah, Jack said, smiling. But she didn't care. She'd say, at least they smell like effort. The girl laughed again, a sweet sound that echoed across the quiet cemetery. Jack felt his chest loosen a little. Talking about Emily like this felt strange but good, like remembering light instead of loss. Did she ride with you? Lily asked, pointing at his Harley. Jack nodded. Every Sunday. She'd sit behind me, holding on tight. Said it made her feel free. We used to ride to the lake, eat sandwiches, and talk about everything. Lily smiled softly. She told me once she liked the sound of motorcycles. She said it was like thunder, but friendly. Jack chuckled. Yeah, that sounds like her, too. They sat together for a while, sharing little memories. Hers from the classroom, his from their home. The more they talked, the more Jack realized how many lives Emily had touched. She hadn't just been his wife. She'd been a light for so many people. After some time, Lily pulled out a small folded paper from her pocket. I made this for her, she said shyly. She unfolded it carefully, revealing a drawing of a woman with golden hair and kind eyes standing beside a dog and a little girl. At the top she had written in big, uneven letters, Thank you for loving me. Jack swallowed hard. That's beautiful, Lily. She'd be proud. Lily looked at him seriously. Can I leave it here? He nodded. Of course. That's the best gift she could get. Together they placed the drawing beside the headstone, weighing it down with a smooth stone so the wind wouldn't take it. Jack stood up and looked at it for a long moment. Something about the picture made him realize how much goodness Emily had left behind. Even though she was gone, her kindness was still alive in this little girl in this small act of love. After a while, Jack said, You hungry? Lily looked up surprised. A little, he smiled. There's a diner down the road. They've got pancakes that could make a bad day good again. What do you say? Lily hesitated. Can Max come? Jack laughed. Wouldn't be right to leave him out. So the three of them, Jack, Lily, and Max, walked down the dirt path to the gate. Jack wheeled his bike to the side and said, Tell you what, we'll walk this time. I like walking with friends, Lily grinned. We're friends? Of course, Jack said warmly. Anyone who brings flowers for Emily is a friend of mine. The diner was small but cozy, with old pictures on the walls and the smell of coffee filling the air. The waitress, an older lady named June, smiled when she saw Jack. Haven't seen you with company in a long while, she said. Jack smiled. Yeah, this is Lily and her partner Max. June laughed. Well, welcome, young lady. What can I get you? Lily's eyes widened as she read the menu. Can I have pancakes with strawberries? You sure can, June said kindly. And something for the dog, too? Maybe a small piece of bacon, Jack said with a wink. He's been a good boy. When the food came, Lily's face lit up. Jack watched her eat, smiling quietly. It had been years since he had shared a meal with anyone like this. Emily used to talk to every stranger she met. She said kindness was contagious. Sitting across from Lily, Jack finally understood what she meant. When they finished eating, Lily leaned forward and said softly, "Can I come again next Sunday? To bring more flowers?" Jack looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled gently. "Yeah, kiddo. She'd like that, and so would I." Lily smiled so brightly it made his heart ache in the best way. "Okay, I'll bring daisies next time." "She liked daisies, right?" Jack nodded. "She sure did." Outside, as they walked back toward the cemetery gate, the sun was higher now, spreading light across the hills. The world felt softer somehow, as if Emily was still there, somewhere in the wind and the laughter and the small girl beside him. Jack stopped near his bike, looking at the road ahead. He had ridden that road alone for years, but today, for the first time, he didn't feel lonely. He looked at Lily and said quietly, "You know, Lily, maybe we both needed this." Lily looked up at him, smiling. "Maybe Miss Emily wanted us to meet." Jack felt a lump in his throat. "Yeah," he whispered. "I think she did." The little girl waved goodbye, and Jack watched her and Max disappear down the hill toward home. As he started his Harley, he looked back at Emily's grave one last time. The drawing fluttered gently in the breeze, and Jack smiled through misty eyes. "Still helping people, huh, Em?" he murmured. "Guess you're not done yet." He revved the engine softly and drove off into the warm sunlight, carrying a heart that felt a little less heavy than before. The week passed quietly, but Jack found himself thinking about Lily more than he expected. Every time he saw something that reminded him of Emily, a field of daisies, a kind smile from a stranger, he thought of the little girl and her dog. She had Emily's same gentle heart, the same way of seeing light even in quiet sadness. Sunday came again, and Jack rode his Harley toward the cemetery with a small paper bag in the side pouch. Inside it was a drawing set, colored pencils, a notepad, and some stickers. He thought Lily might like it. He didn't know exactly why, but it felt right. When he arrived, the air was cool, the sky half covered with clouds. As he parked his bike near the fence, he saw movement by Emily's grave again. There she was, Lily, wearing a pink jacket this time, her hair tied in two uneven braids. Max, her loyal dog, was sitting beside her, wagging his tail as if he'd been waiting for Jack. "You're becoming a regular visitor," Jack said, walking up with a smile. Lily turned around, grinning. "Hi, Mr. Jack. I brought cookies for Miss Emily today." Jack's eyebrows rose. "Cookies, huh? That's a first for this place," Lily nodded proudly. "I made them with Grandma. They're her favorite kind, oatmeal and honey. Grandma said Miss Emily would like them." She placed a small tin on the grass in front of the gravestone, then folded her hands for a moment. Jack watched quietly. There was something so pure about her little ritual. No sadness, just love and memory. When she finished, she looked up. "Did you bring flowers again?" Jack nodded and handed her the small bunch of daisies. "She always liked these," he said. Together, they placed the flowers beside the cookies. The grave looked almost cheerful now, with colors and kindness all around. Then Jack reached into his jacket and handed her the small paper bag. "This is for you," Lily's eyes widened. "For me?" "Yep, thought you might like it." She opened the bag slowly, pulling out the sketchbook and pencils. Her face lit up with joy. "Wow, I love drawing," she said. "Thank you, Mr. Jack." Jack smiled softly. "You can use it to draw whatever you feel when you come here." Emily loved seeing kids create things. Lily looked thoughtful for a moment. "Miss Emily used to tell us, when words are hard, draw your heart instead. Maybe I'll draw her with the angels." Jack chuckled. "I think she'd like that." They sat down together under the old oak tree near the grave. Lily began sketching right away while Max lay across Jack's boots. Jack just watched, his heart feeling lighter with each passing minute. It was strange, this little girl and her dog had brought color back into a life that had been gray for so long. After a while, Lily asked, "Mr. Jack, do you ever talk to her?" Jack nodded slowly. "Every time I come here. Does she answer you?" He smiled faintly. "Not with words. But sometimes I feel like she does. In the wind. In the sound of the bike when it starts up just right. Little things." Lily nodded seriously as if she understood completely. "I think she talks to me too. Sometimes when I miss her, the sun comes out. Grandma says that's her way of saying hi." Jack looked up at the sky. At that very moment, a beam of light broke through the clouds. He smiled softly. You might be onto something there, kid. They spent a long time talking that morning. Lily told stories about Emily's classroom, the reading corner full of pillows, the way she brought muffins every Friday, how she hugged everyone who got a gold star. Jack shared stories of their adventures, their long rides, her love for stray animals, and her terrible singing in the kitchen that somehow made him laugh every time. As Lily listened, she giggled, eyes full of wonder. She sounds like she was really happy. She was, Jack said quietly. She believed happiness was something you make, not something you wait for. Lily thought for a second and then said softly, She made me happy too. Jack looked at her, and his throat tightened. I bet she knew that. A few minutes later, Lily pulled a cookie from the tin and offered it to Jack. You can have one too. Miss Emily would want you to share. Jack hesitated, then smiled and took one. You might be right. The cookie was sweet and soft, tasting like memory and comfort. They both laughed when Max tried to sneak one from the tin. Jack broke off a piece and gave it to him. All right, buddy, don't say I never treat you. The morning passed quickly. Before they knew it, the church bell rang in the distance, echoing through the valley. Lily closed her sketchbook and stood up. Grandma said I have to be home for lunch, she said. Jack nodded. Want a ride? Her eyes widened again. On the motorcycle? He chuckled. Yeah, don't worry, I'll go slow. Max can ride in my sidecar. She looked at him excitedly, then at Max, who wagged his tail in agreement. Okay. Jack helped her put on his extra helmet, which was far too big for her, and tied a scarf under her chin so it wouldn't slip. She climbed onto the seat behind him, holding on tight. Max jumped into the small sidecar and barked happily. As Jack started the engine, Lily squealed in delight. The roar filled the air, deep and steady. They rode slowly through the winding country road, the wind brushing past them. Jack couldn't help but smile as he heard Lily's laughter echo behind him. When they reached her small farmhouse, an elderly woman was waiting by the gate. Her face lit up when she saw Lily hop off the bike safely. Oh, thank you, sir, she said kindly. She's been talking about you all week. Jack smiled and tipped his head. Glad to help, ma'am. She's got a good heart, the woman nodded. She gets that from Miss Emily, I think. My granddaughter adored her. Jack's chest warmed at the mention of Emily. Yeah, me too. Before he could leave, Lily ran inside and came back holding something small wrapped in a napkin. Here, she said. It's a cookie for you to take. And one for Miss Emily. Jack smiled, touched by her kindness. Thank you, Lily. I'll make sure she gets it. He started his bike again, the deep rumble rolling through the air. As he rode away, he saw Lily and her grandmother waving from the gate. Max barked once, as if saying goodbye. When Jack returned to the cemetery that evening, the world was quiet again. The sun was low, painting everything in gold. He walked back to Emily's grave, unwrapped the cookie, and placed it gently on the stone. There you go, Em, he whispered. Made by a little girl who loved you just like everyone else. He sat there for a long time, the wind moving softly through the trees. He realized that Emily's love hadn't disappeared. It had simply spread. It was in Lily's laughter and the kindness of strangers, in every small moment that still made life worth living. As he stood to leave, Jack looked around the peaceful place and said quietly, You were right. Kindness never dies, it just finds new hands. The wind picked up just then, brushing against his jacket like a soft touch. Jack smiled, closed his eyes for a moment and let the feeling sink deep into his heart. Then he started his bike and rode home under the fading orange sky, carrying not only the sound of the engine, but also a quiet sense of healing that had started to grow inside him. A few weeks passed, and what started as quiet Sunday visits slowly turned into a warm routine. Every Sunday morning, the rumble of Jack Miller's Harley echoed through the sleepy countryside, followed by laughter and the small barks of a dog. Lily and her golden retriever Max would wait by the front gate, waving eagerly as the familiar sound approached. Jack would stop, lift his helmet, and smile. Ready for another visit? He'd ask. And every time Lily would nod with excitement. Together, they rode down the road to the little cemetery where love, memory, and friendship had begun to bloom in the most unexpected way. That Sunday was no different. At least, that's what Jack thought. But deep down, he felt something shifting. He didn't know what it was yet, but he could sense it. Maybe it was the way the morning air felt fresher, or how the ride seemed quieter, almost peaceful. It was as if Emily herself had been smiling down from the clouds. When they reached the cemetery, Lily jumped off the bike, holding a small potted plant in her hands. "Look, Mr. Jack. Grandma helped me grow this flower. It's called a marigold. She said they last long and shine bright even in the cold." Jack smiled warmly. "That's perfect, kiddo." Emily loved flowers that didn't give up easy. Lily knelt by the grave and started digging a small hole beside the headstone. Jack joined her, helping with his strong hands while Max sat quietly nearby. Together they planted the marigold, patting the soil gently. The little orange petals glowed brightly under the sun. "It's beautiful," Lily said softly. Jack nodded. "So is what you're doing. Emily would be proud." Lily looked up. "You think she can see it?" Jack paused for a moment, his voice low. "I don't think she ever stopped watching." Lily smiled and whispered, "Hi, Miss Emily, it's me again. I brought you a flower that won't go away so easy, just like you said about good people." Her words touched Jack's heart. The little girl's innocence carried more truth than many adults could speak. After a moment of quiet, Lily turned to him and asked, "Mr. Jack, can I tell you something secret?" Jack smiled gently. "Of course. You can tell me anything." She looked down, twisting the hem of her jacket nervously. "I'm scared about moving. Grandma says we might leave next month. She wants to go live with my uncle because she can't take care of the house alone anymore." Her voice grew small. "But I don't want to leave Miss Emily. Or you." Jack felt something deep inside him tighten. He hadn't realized how much she'd come to mean to him. "That's hard, Lily," he said softly. "I get it. It's tough to say goodbye to places and people that feel like home." She sniffled a little. "Grandma says maybe I can visit sometimes. But it's far." Jack took a slow breath. "You know, Emily used to tell me something whenever I had to go somewhere new." "What did she say?" Lily asked. "She said, you don't have to be close to stay connected. Love doesn't care about distance, it only cares that it's real." Lily's eyes softened. "That's what she told me too, when my parents split up. She said love can stretch really far, even across towns." Jack smiled faintly. "Sounds like she told both of us the same secret." For a while they sat quietly again, listening to the wind move through the trees. The marigold swayed gently, almost like it was nodding along with their thoughts. After a few minutes, Jack stood and said, "Come on, let's take a walk. I want to show you something." They walked together down the path that led to the old part of the cemetery. Jack pointed to a small stone bench beneath a big oak tree. "Emily used to love sitting here," he said. "Sometimes she'd talk to me about her dreams. She wanted to build a small garden for the children in town, a place where kids could plant flowers and learn about life and kindness." Lily's eyes widened. "That's a wonderful idea. Why didn't she build it?" Jack looked down at his hands. "She got sick before she could start. I think she wanted it to be her way of giving back to the world." The little girl thought for a moment, then said, "Maybe we can still do it, even if it's small." Jack turned to her, surprised.
"You mean make her garden?"
She nodded eagerly. "Just here, around her grave. We already have the marigold. We can plant more flowers each week, and maybe one day other people will add theirs too." Jack smiled, a warmth spreading through his chest. "You've got her heart, kid." That's exactly what she would have done. They spent the next hour talking about the garden, what flowers to add, where to place them, and how to make a little sign that said, "Emily's Kindness Garden." Jack promised he'd bring paint and wood next Sunday so they could build it together. As the sun climbed higher, they sat on the bench, sharing water and cookies that Lily's grandmother had packed. The dog lay at their feet, panting softly. "Mr. Jack," Lily said after a while, "do you miss her every day?" Jack looked at the grave from where they sat. "Every single one," he said honestly. "But now it hurts a little less." "I think it's because of you." "Because of me?" she asked, surprised. He nodded. "Yeah. You remind me that she's still doing good things even from up there." "You're proof of that." Lily's eyes glistened. "I think she sent you to me too. I was so sad before I met you. Grandma said I was always quiet. Now I feel happy when I come here." Jack smiled gently. "Then we're both healing each other, huh?" She nodded, and they sat there in the sunlight feeling peaceful. When it was time to go, Lily stood and brushed the dirt from her dress. "Next week I'll bring sunflower seeds. Miss Emily said sunflowers are like smiling faces." Jack grinned. "Then it's a deal." As they walked back to the bike, he felt something new inside him, a mix of pride, sadness, and hope. Emily's memory wasn't fading. It was growing into something beautiful through this child's kindness. He dropped Lily and Max off at their home as usual, but as he turned to leave, her grandmother stepped forward. "Mr. Miller," she said softly, "thank you for spending time with her. You've done more good for her than you realize." Jack shook his head. "No, ma'am. She's the one helping me." The older woman smiled kindly. "Maybe it's both." Jack nodded, tipping his head politely before riding off. That evening, as the sun began to set, Jack returned once more to Emily's grave. He sat quietly beside the marigold they had planted that morning. The petals glowed softly in the golden light. He thought about how much had changed since the day he first met Lily, how her presence had brought warmth back into his cold, quiet life. For the first time in years, he wasn't just surviving. He was living again. He looked at the marigold and whispered, "You're still teaching me, Em. You always knew how to send help when I needed it." The wind blew gently, making the little flower sway, and Jack smiled through misty eyes. He stayed there until the stars began to appear, then finally stood up, brushing off his jeans. Before leaving, he placed his hand on the gravestone. "I'll keep your garden growing," he said softly. "I promise." As he walked back to his Harley, he felt the cool night air wrap around him. The ride home was quiet, but inside him, there was a new peace. A sense that love never truly ends, it just finds new ways to live on. The next Sunday morning arrived with soft clouds and the scent of rain in the air. Jack Miller rode down the quiet road like always, the sound of his Harley echoing across the open fields. But this time, there was something different about his heart. It felt both heavy and hopeful. The past few weeks had changed him in ways he hadn't expected. The lonely biker who once rode in silence was now part of something warm and meaningful again. He reached Lily's house and saw her waiting by the gate with Max wagging his tail. She was holding a small bag of seeds in a bright yellow watering can. "Good morning, Mr. Jack," she shouted, waving excitedly. Jack stopped the bike and smiled. "Well, if it isn't my little gardener," he said. "You ready to make Miss Emily's garden even prettier?" Lily nodded eagerly. "I brought sunflower seeds. Grandma said they'll grow tall just like Hope." Jack laughed softly. "Sounds like something Emily would have said." They rode together down the road toward the cemetery. The sky was gray, but sunlight kept peeking through in gentle patches. Jack felt calm, even as the air hinted at coming rain. When they arrived, the first thing Lily did was run to Emily's grave. The marigold they had planted was blooming beautifully, its petals bright like a small fire in the cool wind. "Look, Mr. Jack, it's still here," Lily said proudly. Jack knelt beside her. "You did a good job taking care of it, kiddo. Emily would have loved this." Together they planted the sunflower seeds in a small line behind the marigold. Lily worked with careful hands, pressing each seed into the soil and patting it gently. Max sat nearby, watching them like a quiet guardian. Jack watered the soil with the little can she had brought. When they finished, they sat under the oak tree. The air smelled like wet earth, and a light drizzle began to fall. Lily opened her sketchbook and started to draw again. This time she drew the garden they were building, flowers of every color, a smiling woman with long hair, a big man with a beard beside her, and a small girl holding a dog. She looked up at Jack and smiled shyly. "That's you and me and Miss Emily," she said. Jack looked at the drawing and felt his throat tighten. "You've got a big heart, Lily. That's a beautiful picture." "She looks happy, doesn't she?" Lily asked. Jack nodded slowly. "Yeah, she does." They sat in silence for a while, just listening to the gentle rain. Jack thought about how much his life had changed since that first day he saw Lily at the grave. Back then he had come to mourn. Now he came to live, to share stories, to remember laughter, and to help a little girl keep her teacher's kindness alive. After a while, Lily asked softly, "Mr. Jack, when do you think flowers stop growing?" Jack smiled faintly. "Never, if someone keeps caring for them." Lily thought for a second, then said, "That's like love, right?" He looked at her with surprise. "Exactly like love." The rain began to fall harder, so they took shelter under the tree. Jack took off his leather jacket and placed it around Lily's shoulders. She looked up, her eyes full of trust and warmth. "Thank you," she said quietly. When the rain slowed, a faint rainbow began to form in the distance. Lily gasped and pointed. "Look, Mr. Jack, it's a rainbow. Miss Emily must be smiling." Jack chuckled, following her gaze. "Yeah, kiddo. I think she's saying thank you." They stayed until the rainbow faded, then packed up their things. Jack helped Lily onto the bike, and together they rode back through the glistening roads. When they reached her house, her grandmother came out to greet them, waving from the porch. "You two look like you had quite the day," she said kindly. Lily nodded. "We planted sunflowers for Miss Emily. And guess what, Grandma? There was a rainbow." Her grandmother smiled, her eyes gentle. "Sounds like someone up there is proud of you." Jack felt his heart grow full. "You raised a good one," he told her. The old woman looked at him and said softly, "Maybe she found the right person to guide her heart." Jack smiled, touched by her words. "Maybe we found each other," he said quietly. Before leaving, Lily handed him a folded paper from her sketchbook. "Here," she said shyly. "This is for you." Jack unfolded it and saw a drawing of his Harley parked by a field of flowers, with a tiny figure of Emily standing beside it, waving. Underneath, Lily had written in uneven letters, "Kindness never dies." Jack stared at it for a long time, his eyes misty. "That's the best gift I've ever gotten," he whispered. Lily smiled. "It's true, isn't it?" He nodded. "It sure is." That evening, after dropping them off, Jack rode back to the cemetery one last time for the day. The clouds were clearing and the air smelled fresh and sweet. He parked the bike and walked slowly toward Emily's grave, carrying Lily's drawing in his hand. The marigold glowed under the setting sun, and the tiny seeds they had planted were hidden beneath the soil, waiting to grow. Jack placed the drawing beside the gravestone and smiled softly. "You did it, Em," he whispered. "You're still changing lives." He knelt down and brushed his fingers over the name carved in stone. "I thought I'd lost everything when you left," he said quietly. "But you sent me something beautiful. A reminder that kindness is still alive." The wind rustled through the trees, soft and steady, like a familiar whisper. Jack closed his eyes and let the sound wash over him. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. He felt surrounded by love, by memory, by something eternal. As the sun began to set, he stood up and looked around the small garden they had started. The bright marigold, the soft soil ready for sunflowers. It was simple, but it was full of meaning. It wasn't just a resting place anymore. It was a space of life, hope, and healing. Jack smiled faintly. "You'd like this, Em. It's exactly what you wanted, a garden of kindness." Before he left, he took out his pocket knife and a small piece of wood he had brought. With slow, careful hands, he carved the words they had talked about. Emily's Kindness Garden. He placed the wooden sign in the ground beside the grave, pressing it firmly into the earth. Then he stepped back and looked at it with quiet pride. The sky was painted orange and pink now, the kind of sunset Emily used to love. Jack stood there for a long time, watching the colors shift and fade. He felt her presence, not in a sad way, but in a calm, comforting way, like she was right there beside him. Finally, he turned toward his bike, but before starting it, he looked back one last time. "See you next Sunday," he said softly. "And don't worry, kiddo. Your garden's in good hands." He started the Harley, the deep rumble filling the still evening air. As he rode down the winding road, the horizon glowed with light. The sound of the engine mixed with the whispers of the wind, and for the first time in years, Jack smiled with peace in his heart. Behind him, in that quiet cemetery, a marigold stood tall beside a small wooden sign. And even though no one was there to see it, the first drop of rain landed gently on the soil where the sunflower seeds waited, ready to grow. Because love, like kindness, never truly ends. It just keeps blooming, one small act at a time.